Welcome everybody. Welcome. We're so glad you're here for the 5-day challenge, Healing the Divide, Sisterhood Intensive. So grateful to everyone who has joined us. Whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Vilma V, radio host of Feminist Magazine. Oh, sorry, Women's Magazine on KPFA. You can also listen to Vilma and her brilliant cooperative
Do not
on
walk.
kpfa.org. Vilma V. I'm so glad you. How are you doing, Vilma?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here on the fourth day and to learn more about healing the divide.
Yes, me too. I'm just typing a message to anyone who's joining us that this is being recorded and will live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So just if you don't want to make a comment or anything like that, because it is being recorded, we just want you to know that. But we're so grateful that you are here and we have a lot to talk about today. Hi, Colette. Yay. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Colette, for being here. Thank you for all your words of enthusiasm. I'm so lucky to be your friend. Okay. Today we are talking about initiating trust across difference. And I hope everybody has their notebooks handy because we're going in and we're gonna we're not only gonna talk about our own experiences, but we're gonna talk about what social psychologists have found actually happens in interactions between people of color and white people that frequently leave both parties feeling terrible, and what needs to change in order for those interactions to go better. So I hope everyone is ready for a robust conversation and look forward to hearing all your comments. How are you feeling about this conversation, Vilma?
I'm ready for it. I think this is a big one. I think that's, the beginning, right? Is that we make sure that we have trust so that we can deal with the more difficult aspects of, when conflict arises or where there's some sort of discomfort. So starting with a place of trust seems like a really smart way to go.
Yes. And that initial I'm sorry. Yes, and that initial interaction is just so important because if you don't get the initial interaction right, you're often not afforded a second chance. And we'll be going into the reasons for that as we go along. But for now, I want us to do a little meditation about the circle of trust. And so just get comfortable. Feel connected to the earth, to the ground, feel connected to your chair, whatever is supporting you. Feel that support and that deep, deep connection and stability. And now I want you to slow your breathing and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And take your finger and start to draw a circle in space. Draw a circle. And now I want you to start to fill that circle with the people you trust. Do you trust yourself? If you trust yourself, put yourself inside that circle. Who are the other people who you trust? Put them inside the circle. And feel the gratitude for having people who you trust. And now I want you to start to think about people who are currently outside of your trust circle. And what would have to happen in order for them to come inside? How would you need to change? How would they need to change? What would make you feel secure in trusting them? And how might your life be different if there were a few more, maybe many more people who you could really trust? And maybe think about someone that you have broken trust with, and what would you have to do to restore that trust? Continue breathing, continue feeling gratitude for the people you trust, gratitude for yourself for being here. And as you're ready, you can come into the space and open your eyes. Welcome. So, as we shared last time, well, how was that meditation for you, Vilma?
I like that. I love meditations where we are picturing people that we love and feel compassion with. It's nice. You don't feel so alone. And then it is interesting to see who's outside that circle, and that question of what do people have to do or what do you have to do to repair? Those are really good things to think about.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's what Yom Kippur, is that the Day of Atonement? Yeah, I think those are so important for us to really reflect on how, what am I doing to build trust or to break trust, and how can I rebuild it? Um, uh, yeah. Okay. As we mentioned before, hi everybody. I am Karen Fleshman. I am founder of the Interracial Sisterhood Coalition. We create safe, generative, opt-in spaces outside of the workplace for women, including trans women of all generations and ethnicities, to come together and to share our stories so that we can learn to relate across difference as equals and unite across difference. Hi, Beverly. And finally, secure our collective safety and freedom. And this is a picture of the Interracial Sisterhood Retreat in San Francisco in 2024. There's lovely Vilma right there. How was that experience for you, Vilma?
It was great. It's always nice to meet women who also have the same intention to cross racial lines and find connection and community. So it's always a good, very nice space to be in.
Yes, thank you so much. And we have another interracial sisterhood retreat coming up in Barbados, November 6th through 10. We would love for you to join us. We only have a few seats left. So please DM me and I'll be happy to share um, the um, actually, you know what? I have the website right here where you can grab all the information for that. I'm going to put it in the chat, um, where you can get all the details about coming to the Interracial Sisterhood Retreat. Look at that. That is an actual photo of a beach in Barbados. That is not like AI generated photo. That is a real place. I don't know. That looks like exactly what I need right now. So I hope that people will join us. It's going to be very powerful. Really lovely group of women, small group, has already RSVP'd. So, just to kind of recap, we've been doing 5 days of intensive sisterhood building. So we started on Monday with defining interracial sisterhood. What is it and why is it needed? And we offered this definition: a lifelong embodied practice of women of different ethnicities and generations respecting and supporting each other and making change together. Interracial sisters center, follow, protect, resource, and support leadership by marginalized women, including Black and Indigenous women, trans and queer women, women with disabilities, immigrant women, Muslim and Jewish women, under-resourced women, and women with intersecting marginalized identities. Then on day 2, we shifted our focus to letting go of our internalized racist and patriarchal beliefs. And we shared how our minds can have a junk drawer in it of some items that are in there are useful, but other items that do not serve us creep in there. And we have to continuously recognize, hey, I've got to do a little work on my junk drawer, open that up and start taking items out that no longer serve us. And that's a continuous process. We can't just do it once because it tends to get back in there. And we spoke about how, in particular, because of white Americans' social isolation from other racial groups, particularly within our friend group, on average, white Americans' friend networks are 90% white, and 67% of white Americans' friend networks are 100% white. And how this is harmful to everyone, not not only to white people, because we're not hearing other people's stories. We're in a giant echo chamber of people who have similar lived experiences to us, but also to people of color, anyone outside of white friendship networks, because we talked about how it is among our friends that we exchange our social capital. Like that's how most people find out about jobs, is through word of mouth, referrals from people that they know. That's how people find out about investment opportunities or where to send your kids to school. All this type of information is being circulated largely only among white people, and it's contributing to the racial wealth gap. And we talked about, particularly today, with 350,000 Black women pushed out of the labor force in 2025, how important it is that we have integrated social networks so that we can, provide those referrals and connections for people to get back into the labor force. Do you have any reflections on this, Vilma?
Yeah, my partner is an ED at a nonprofit that works to uplift and develop young men of color. And it's astonishing how closed and limited their circles are. And a lot of times, their network is not the networks that can hire people or give trainings, or so that does make a real big difference what your social circle looks like in that capital when you are from a minority group, a disenfranchised group. It's really a lot smaller than I think people realize.
Yes, I come to this work after working in youth workforce development, and that is what we continuously provided our young people, is ways to connect outside of their social circle. We matched every single young person with a staff member who was their advisor, and we had a volunteer mentor for every single one of our young people. And we had all kinds of social events. We had lunches on site. We had, evening seminars. We had receptions. We had beautiful graduations and beautiful galas at Cipriani. Because we really wanted our young people to have that experience of networking with a wide variety of people and expanding their circle. We say our network is our net worth. So then we spoke about how racism and patriarchy operate on many different levels, including internalized. It gets inside of our head and we start holding um, racist and patriarchal beliefs, sometimes about other people, sometimes about our own self. And it causes us to limit our belief in ourself because we've internalized that little voice in our head that says, you know, you don't deserve this, you don't belong here, et cetera, et cetera. Interpersonal, so how it shows up in the way that we relate with each other, which is what we're going to talk about today. And institutional, right? That is institutional white supremacy, that institutions throughout this country, whether they be um, workplaces, schools, they could be prisons, they could be police departments. They're the institution, and people come into them, and then they have different outcomes based on their race because racism is baked into the institution. And that's not because there's something wrong with the people, it's because there's something wrong with the institution, but the people who run the institution don't see that there's anything wrong and have no interest in trying to change it. In fact, now they're trying to roll back all the attempts at racial equity and DEI that they promised to uphold back in 2020. And then systemic, how all these institutions work together like stars in a constellation to produce racist outcomes. And again, the people who design the systems, who benefit from the systems, don't see any reason to change them. And we talked about how it's actually our interpersonal interactions that are upholding these systems in many ways. And what you, me, and everyone in this space, what we have the capacity to control is our internalized racism and patriarchy and our interpersonal interactions, right? To some degree, we all have capacity to control those things. And when we start to do that, when we start to build interracial solidarity and understanding and community, that is what is ultimately going to put pressure on these institutions and systems to change. And then yesterday, we got into cycle breaking. We talked about how racism and patriarchy aren't just belief systems, they are systems of oppression enforced by violence. And we all carry intergenerational trauma in our bodies from our ancestors, either who experienced this violence at the hands of white people or who inflicted this violence. That white people's ancestors who inflicted this violence, that is a secondary vicarious form of violence to have done that to another human being that also lives in our bodies. And so when we interact across difference today, it's not just me and Vilma in this interaction. It's Vilma, her ancestors, everything they experienced from me and my ancestors, and me and my ancestors are all present in that interaction. And that is a big part of why our interactions often don't go that well. Is this making sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to think about. But of course, whenever we talk to someone, you know, a whole person, we just said this before we came on live, was a each person is a universe unto themselves.
Yes.
And meeting across the large space between us um, takes more effort than we think, especially if we want to be thoughtful and careful and kind about it.
100%. And that is what we are going to talk about today. Given all of this stuff, how do we actually show up in interpersonal interactions? Oh, before we go there, though, very important. We also talked about how our behavior today, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act, is so much rooted in our trauma response. And so we named all these different trauma responses: fight, to face any perceived threat aggressively; freeze, the inability to move or act against a threat; flop, to collapse, become unresponsive, or faint; and flight, to run away from danger or threat, and to fawn, to please someone, to avoid conflict. And what we talked about is that um, our trauma responses are different. And this is a huge generalization, but I would say many women of color's trauma response is flight or fight, because literally their survival and their ancestors' survival depended on fight or flight. Whereas white women's trauma response is often freeze, fawn, and flop. Because as I was preparing for this, it became really clear to me, and probably, Angela Davis, critical race theory scholars have probably been saying this for a long time, but it just really, really became clear to me that women of color's survival has depended on getting as far away from violent white men as possible, while white women's survival has depended on getting as close to violent white men as possible and appeasing them and pleasing them and doing what we could so that we could get, quote, protected by them, and that they wouldn't inflict their violence on us, but that they would inflict it on other people. And this, when I had this thought, I was like, "Oh my god." I felt just chills all over my body. Um, it's just so clear to me that we need each other. Women need each other, and we need to really understand what is driving our behavior, and we need to develop those patterns of relating across difference as equals, and that we need each other to secure our collective safety and freedom.
Yeah, and I'll just add, because I know we talked about this as well, and I think too, some white women might be thinking, and I'm not speaking for them, but that they also have tried to get away from violent white men. But by and large, because I could see a woman saying, "Wait, what are you talking about? My husband was abusive or whatever," and I tried, but the but on the whole, you were safer being on the right side of a white man who was violent than a woman of color who was clearly maybe more in an antagonistic position.
Yes. And we see this in white women's voting patterns. You know, we see this in our behavior in the workplace, how white women will perceive other women as threats to their proximity to the white men in positions of power, even if those white men aren't even violent. Maybe they're the most kind and lovely white men possible. But white women derive their power from their proximity to them and will try to squish and squelch other women in order to preserve their position. Um, yeah, so it is a lot, y'all. It is really a lot. And I also want to make clear one other thing is that I am talking here not about, you know, getting rid of white men. I love white men. I am the daughter of a white man. I have a white brother. I have, white relatives. I have white male friends. Um, I have had wonderful white male bosses, and colleagues. I am not saying all white men are terrible. I'm saying patriarchy and white supremacy are terrible. And that's what we need to get rid of. And that is really ultimately only serving a very teeny tiny group of extremely wealthy, powerful white men, and excluding many other white men from the benefits of patriarchy and white supremacy. So this is going to be, again, what we're trying to do is collective liberation and freedom for everybody, not to now have another group that is oppressing another group. So today's theme is initiating trust across difference. And it is so, so, so important to get that first interaction right. And I was curious, Vilma, if you wanted to share the story of how you and I first met, because I think it's really funny.
Yes, we were at the Berkeley Book Festival, and there was a really interesting panel discussion about, I think that the topic you can remind me about, it was a racial thing about Black and white women voting.
It was about multiracial democracy.
There we go.
Yes. And
And
it
there
was
was,
Steve Phillips, Latifah Simon, Maurice Mitchell, and Ashley Henderson.
which is interesting about all these, those are people of color. And so when they opened it up for questions, it was a great discussion. Steve Phillips, I mean, Latifah Simon, she's our congressperson now. Wonderful, Maureen Amo, rather, Working Families. I asked, this is great, it's a good discussion, but white women have in this election and in 2016, over majority voted for Trump. So we can have this great multiracial discussion, but there are no white women on the stage to kind of like, what about them? What about the white women? And I was volunteering at the Berkeley Book Festival, and I had to be at another spot. I was just kind of going in there because I really wanted to see the conversation. So I didn't really even have time to listen to my answer. I was planning to see it later, and I started to run back to where I was going. And I left the venue, and I was really like almost down the street. And Karen is like, wait, hey, I want to ask you about what you asked about. And I was like, this white woman is what? But I found her very sincere, and I do want to talk. I that's why I'm here. I have an interest in forming more interracial solidarity because I've had my share of experiences with white women, some wonderful, lots of not wonderful. So I had never been approached as a white woman who was so interested in what my point of view was about, my question, and hey, like, who are you? What are you up to? And we exchanged numbers, or I gave her my card, and we started talking, and I went to her retreat, and here I am today. So it's been really great. But it was definitely, a quirky beginning.
Yes. I am so glad we met, Vilma, and grateful for our friendship. And I will say this sincerely to my white sisters. If we want to have diverse friend circles, we are going to be have to be the ones to initiate. That's been my experience. Um, and we'll be talking about this as we go along, is that there's just so much distrust. And that's what I'd like to start with. On a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 meaning non existent and 10 being fully, what level of trust do women of color have in white women right now? Has trust grown or shrunk over the last 10 years? I would love to hear people's reflections in the chat if they feel comfortable. Um, and Vilma, perhaps you can get us started by sharing some of your thoughts on this subject.
Yes, and I can be white presenting, but I'm Puerto Rican, and I was born in New York City, and I live in the Bay now. So I'm firmly identify as a woman of color, and I think right now it's probably about a 5, and I think I'm being charitable.
You think
I
it's at a 5?
Well, half. I was trying to like, some are good. Okay, maybe 5. It's 5 or under. And has trust grown? It's definitely shrunk. I think
Mhm.
I think the voting patterns and the effects of white women's voting patterns have caused a lot of women of color to constantly ask, where is the solidarity? Where is the being on the same side? I think, a lot of us, even white women too, are so perplexed that a man who's a serial abuser, a bona fide, court found racist, in his own family, people have come out of the woodwork about him. He's been caught on tape saying things about women. He was in debates calling other white women terrible things, Megyn Kelly being one of them. So a lot of us, okay, even hearing me talk, maybe we're a 3 or 2. It's just perplexing. I just
Yeah.
I don't get it. So that's also what leads me to be engaged in a lot of this racial stuff, because I really would like to understand more, and I don't currently.
Yes. We have, oh, okay. I thought that was a comment. Yes. I would say it's at a 0. Um,
I was
largely
being charitable.
largely because of the outcome of the 2024 election. 92% of Black women voted for Kamala Harris, did everything they could to get Kamala Harris elected. I expected white women to do more than we had in the past. And yet again, for the third presidential election in a row, the majority of white women voted for Donald Trump. I will say that the majority of college educated white women did not vote for Donald Trump, did vote for Kamala Harris. But unfortunately, that's, a little over a third of white women. Most of white women voters are high school educated, and the majority of them, which breaks my heart because they are actually the ones who are most vulnerable as, women, under-resourced women, to the kinds of harmful policies, whether we're talking reproductive healthcare access more broadly, protections in the workplace, all those types of things, than women with college educations who are presumably, better resourced. And I agree that trust has shrunk over the last 10 years. It definitely diminished a lot in 2016. It was already abysmally low, and then it's just gotten progressively lower and lower. I mean, maybe there were some kind of, upticks a little bit in the summer of 2020, when we saw so many people come out, but then where did they go? Where are they now? What are they doing?
And I think that corresponds to the situation we're in right now, currently, where there's a lot of mistrust in institutions and the media, and it's just across a lot of different domains, unfortunately.
1,000%, 1,000%. But what I did really, I watched the video of Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates talking, and it was very interesting because at the end, Ta-Nehisi was saying, he talks with Black academics all the time who say things like, this is the most woke white people that we have ever had in the United States of America. I know we are still out there, woke white people. I know that you were sincere when you showed up in 2020, and you're still out there. And this is why we want to have this interracial sisterhood coalition and an online membership network off of social media. So we don't have any trolls. We don't have any people, now they're trying to gather up, surveil all of our social media and everything like that, but a place where we can have these real generative conversations and and build a movement. And like we were saying, having interracial sisterhood circles in every community where women can get together, provide mutual aid to each other, do political education and political activities together, and have a whole lot of fun. This is the future I want, and I know it's possible. So I guess we've addressed that. What are some reasons why? And is what we are saying resonating with y'all in the chat? Please do let us know. What do you think are some reasons why trust between women of color, or women of color's trust in white women, is very, very low right now? And then I'd like to talk about, how is the lack of trust among women harming all women? I mean, we already know this is the worst country among developed countries for women. We have the highest maternal mortality rate. We have some of the highest violence against women rates. Uh, you know, Gunfire is the leading cause of death among our children. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. Um, Colette has a comment. Perhaps white women vote in the hopes the white knight, white man will lift them out of their drudgery. Could be the core reason they vote against their own priorities. I agree with you, Colette. I think going back to what you were saying yesterday about Stockholm syndrome, Colette, I went and read a little bit more about Stockholm syndrome, and it's where the person who is being harmed identifies with and shields the person who is harming them and tries to protect the person who is harming them from the people who are actually trying to help them, looks down on the people who are trying to help them, looks up to the person who is harming them and identifies with them. Um, and it is very, very sad to see that happening. It makes me really, but I do think it is, again, a trauma response of hundreds of years of conditioning. That if you, as a white woman, align yourself with the most violent white man, you will somehow be spared of violence. And then you take and you start to inflict violence on others to appease and support that the white man in his position of violence. It is really, yeah, there's a lot of work and a lot of healing we white women need to do. But definitely the lack of trust among women is harming all women. And who needs to shift their behavior to make trust building possible? I definitely think it's white women, because with the level of trust as low as it is right now, um, we are going to be carefully monitored before anyone has any degree of trust in us whatsoever. So I have a new acronym. As a white woman named Karen, I would like to invite my white sisters to show up as a Karen and be kind, not nice, accountable, reparative, empathetic, and neighborly. What does that mean? To be kind means to genuinely care about other people and their well being, right? Not center yourself, but to truly care, how are other human beings doing? And what can I do to support these other human beings? It's not being nice and trying to please them to avoid conflict. It's actually direct. If you're kind, you give people feedback because you want them to improve. And when they give you feedback, you receive it with grace because you want to improve. Those are some elements of what it means to be kind. To be accountable, that when you cause harm, you are accountable for the harm that you cause. When you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. To be reparative, again, repair when you cause harm. To be willing to stay in relationship and atone and actually change your behavior to repair trust when it is broken. To be empathetic, right? To really listen to another person's story and to feel for them, and to be neighborly. In other words, I'm not a white savior who's superior to you, swooping in to save you. But I am your neighbor. I am your equal, and I care about you. And when you're going through a hard time, I'm coming over with a nice hot meal that I made for you and your family, or inviting you to go for a walk, or sitting down for a cup of coffee, whatever the case may be. I am neighborly to you. If you need someone to, go pick up your kids, or, um, you know, uh, whatever the case may be, I am here for you. Does that make sense to everybody?
Be great to rebrand the Karens. I love it.
Yes, we're going to rebrand the Karen. Okay. And a second acronym that I think is very helpful, and I don't even remember where I learned this, but wait. Okay. White women, before you say something, ask yourself, why am I talking? Or if you see something harmful happening, why am I not talking? Why am I not calling this person in? Why am I not um, saying something when I see something harmful happening in front of me? Okay. So those two acronyms, Karen and wait. How is this landing, Vilma?
I like it. I hadn't heard the wait, why am I talking? That's a good one. And I just think it's a great idea to kind of put this Karen out there that we've all heard, Permit Patty and the different names. And I feel bad for people named Karen. So I like it that you're trying to put forth a different take on a Karen, a new version of Karen.
Yes. Reclaiming Karen. I don't feel bad. I am named Karen, and I don't feel bad for people named Karen, because I see Karen not as a slur or an insult. I see it as a mirror and an important call for accountability. And when white women change our behavior, hashtag Karen will go away. But we cannot double down on the behavior. That's going to make it just linger longer and cause even more harm. So I have a question for folks. Has anyone here ever experienced an interaction between a woman of color and a white woman that left both women feeling bad? Okay. Beverly says, my experience as a Black woman when I am in white space, when something bad happens, instead of taking accountability, they all gang up on the victim. Thank you for raising that, Beverly. That's exactly right. What is that called? Darvo? I don't remember what that stands for, but that's basically like, instead of directing your attention at the person causing the harm, you reverse and make the victim the wrongdoer, right? So do not do that, white women. Okay. So,
Yeah, I
what?
think Darvo is that deny, attack, and reverse victim offender.
Yes,
Yeah.
reversing the victim and offender. Yes, I heard that term yesterday on LinkedIn, Darvo. Yes, thank you. Thank you. 100%. Yes, and I'm telling you, this is all rooted in trauma. These are our learned behaviors. And this is why we got to do a lot of work on ourselves, white women. We got to stop thinking of ourselves as normal. Nothing is normal about this behavior. This behavior is extremely harmful to other people and to ourselves. And we gotta confront that in loving community with other white women and work through these things together and hold each other to account. So I was so excited when I found this study from the Journal of Personal Social Psychology, and it's called To Be Liked versus Respected: Divergent Goals in Interracial Interactions. Because to me, this study really named what I have experienced in these interactions. And what the study said is that we come into interracial interactions with different goals and different understanding. So, white people's goal coming into the interaction, we want to be liked. We often feel super self-conscious because we don't have experience relating across difference. We just saw that in these all-white social circles, or 90% of our social circles being other white people. We are not self-aware of our racial advantages. And I know that was certainly my case for a very, very long time. I just thought, my family worked hard. That is what they told me. That's what I actually observed. My grandfather was a farmer. It was a lot of hard work, and his farm was very prosperous. But I missed the part where he got 160 acres of land from the US government for $50. I mean, that wasn't my grandfather, that was my great grandfather, who was an immigrant coming from France, right? So I thought, these people prospered because they worked hard. I did not realize that that was the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Kiowa people. And militias came through and genocided them, pushed them off to far off reservations. And that was the land then that the US government essentially gave to my great grandfather, while there were many, many Black people stuck sharecropping. This is in the 1880s on the same plantations where they had previously been enslaved, and they did not get access to Homestead Act land grants. They couldn't even leave. If they tried to leave, they would be inflicted terrible violence. White people would inflict terrible violence on them. So all these myths white people get about our racial advantages or lack thereof. But many white people are not self-aware of this because we don't learn about it in school, and we don't really learn about it. Yet we want affirmation of not being racist. We know that to be racist is bad, and we don't want to be bad. We definitely want to be good, not racist white people. And again, we may have grown up in an all white community like I did and never really observed our parents relating across difference. We have no understanding of that. That all of our messages and images have been mediated by TV, by movies, social media, etc. All of that goes into our head in this interaction, and what we wind up doing is acting on stereotypes, and we act too casual because we're trying to think in our head, how can I bridge the divide between this person of color and me? Oh, I know. I bet if I ask them about so and so, then they will like me and realize I am not racist. Okay? I will be able to achieve my goals. So we've now talked about what is going on in the white person's mind. Whereas the people of color, person of color in this interaction want to be respected, not liked, want to be seen as an individual, not as a representative of their entire race, have dealt with white people before throughout their entire life, have had multiple interactions with white people, have assessed multiple white people to see on a scale of, 0 to 10, how racist is this white person? And so they're just sitting there kind of observing and trying to watch this behavior to try to see how bad is this going to be, or is this going to be okay, are very aware of white people's racial advantages and of their own racial disadvantages. And I had originally put have zero desire to affirm white people are not racist. And Vilma corrected me and said have negative 5,000 desire to affirm white people are not racist, right? Nah.
Yeah, it looks funny. I mean, it makes more sense with zero desire, but that is what I said. Especially, I think, definitely if you're a college educated person dealing with another college educated person, I think there's even, that's the minus 5,000. I think you're right. We're just so used to doing that assessment. It almost happens, instantly and subconsciously. And, depending on the circumstance, there may be more leeway. But I definitely think in a post George Floyd era, there's even less. Like, come on now. This man was killed in front of everybody. The racism is real. And there's less, people are less inclined for sure.
Yes, yes. So when the white person acts on stereotypes and acts too casual, the person of color feels disrespected and the interaction does not go well. Is this resonating with people? Does this land with your personal experiences? Let's see. Michelle Simon just wrote an article on Darvo. Oh, I got to read that. Thank you so much. Yes. Referencing to that was exactly what Pam Bondi was oh my god. That whole thing was just unbelievable, yet oh so believable. And it really like all of these went like Caroline Levitt, Pam Bondi, what the chief of staff, what is her name? Susie Wiles. I just really wonder, like, what were their childhoods like? Like, how did they become like this? How can they be so vehement and doubling down on their protection of this individual? It's just, whew. I gotta read that, please. Oh, yes. Oh, Michelle. I know Michelle Simon. Yes, I like her very much. She's an awesome white woman. Okay. Um, so where are we? So is this making sense to people? Is this
And I hadn't seen this before, and I do. It makes a lot of sense. Whereas where white people, they're trying to be friendly, so there is that casual that they're trying to be relaxed, and I could see someone, a person of color like myself, many times, like, wait, I don't know you that well, or why, why wouldn't you ask if to use my first name, or can I call you, and that casualness that I see how white people adopt in in an attempt to make a bridge, how it can come across. Like for me, and I'm an attorney, and sometimes in a professional setting, maybe don't go straight to Vilma, but Miss Ortiz, or can I call you Vilma? And uh, it explains a lot. And I think a lot of people should to be aware of these divergent goals, because right from the get-go, it shows how things can go south,
yes,
even with
100
well-meaning.
100%. Colette says Darvo is the psychology behind white tears and white fragility. 100%. 100%. I, the white person who has caused harm and is now being held to account for causing harm, instead of atoning for the harm and taking accountability for what I did, start crying so that I become the center of attention. And all of a sudden, I'm the victim when I'm the one who was the person who caused harm. And there's no attention or empathy being given to the person who I harmed or resolution. Okay, so given all of this, what do we do? Any ahas here? Any takeaways from this thing? And Vilma just shared one. So if anyone else has one, please put those in the chat. We would love to hear them. But now Vilma and I are going to engage in a couple of role plays so we can see this in actual action. So, Vilma, do you want to set the scene for this first role play?
But we did a few in practice, so I'm not sure which one you want to start with. So
I
maybe.
want to start with the coworker one not going well.
Okay. And is that about the tardiness?
No, that's not about the tardiness. That's just
Oh,
we're
first
meeting
meeting.
each other for the first
Yes.
time. We've been assigned to the same project, but it's just the two of us.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, which comes up in a workplace, but we're equal, so not a big power dynamic, but there's no shared history. It's the first time and yet, we've got to get something done together, right? So yeah.
Correct. We're
Okay.
meeting each other for the first time. Okay. Oh, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. My name is Karen. What's your name?
My name is Vilma.
Oh, Wilma. Nice to meet you.
No, it's not. It's not Wilma. It's Vilma with a V, like Victor.
Whoa, that's really hard to say. I don't know if I can Vilma.
Vilma. It's like Wilma, but with a V. It's. I'm from Puerto Rico. It's actually a very common name, Vilma, in Cuba and in Puerto Rico.
That's so exotic.
Okay, I mean, sure, Puerto Rico's part of the United States. It's a colony of the U.S., but definitely since 1898.
Wow, so you're from Puerto Rico?
Well, I was actually born in New York City, but yeah, my parents were both born in Puerto Rico.
Wow. Well, how do you feel about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl?
I think it's great. I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Ah!
Scene.
Scene cut. Okay. What do you all think? Any feedback on that interaction? What was I doing in that interaction? Was I building trust with Vilma or not?
And I'll just say while we're waiting on the comments that what your last slide about the casualty and right away kind of, oh, where you're from, and just quickly trying to make comments and not really, they should have waited, wait, well, why am I talking, why am I saying her name is funny. And I know I get that a lot, and I don't even have, I don't think, a very different type of name. And I can imagine people who have names rooted in other ethnicities. In Mexico, Citlali, and different ethnic type names. People just, I don't know. Sometimes it just right away they kind of reveal their hand, if you will. If you're not Jennifer.
Yes. Exactly. So this is definitely one of my tips. Do not say, "Oh, that's so exotic," or "That's difficult to pronounce." Do take the time to actually learn to pronounce someone's name correctly.
Yeah, there was a comment too about the name thing. That's how things can go south just
Yes.
so quickly. And I think sometimes stereotypes can just bloom out of it and obfuscate what's really going on, or what real connection could happen, because right away there's this cloud of, oh, you're different. And Vilma is not a uncommon name against where I'm from, and I think that's the same with a lot of other ethnic names are rooted in Black culture. It's like it's new to you, but I know lots of Vilmas, right?
Yes, yes. My ex-husband's name is Takashi, which in Japan is like John, everyone is Oh, and his short name is Taka, which people sometimes hear as Kaka.
Oh my God.
Okay, I shouldn't be laughing. Okay. Yes, but that's exact it creates defensiveness and it's so off-putting. Like just take the time to actually learn someone's name and don't have any comments about it. You
Unless
know?
it's nice or something,
Yes.
people can say, "Oh, that's beautiful. I've never heard that before." Or I mean,
Yes.
but there are ways to have a genuine reaction that doesn't create the defensiveness that someone mentioned on the comments. Because yeah, it just can go south so fast, just from the
Yes.
get-go.
From the get-go. Okay. It has always come across to me as trying too hard. And Juanita, what do you mean? What is trying too hard? w- can you clarify for us? Does that mean that you're trying too hard to learn someone's name?
I think trying to me, and Juanita will type it in, but I see that as just what your other slide talked about, being very casual or being, just too overly. Like it just doesn't come off as sincere.
Yeah.
It sometimes, it just somehow reads as off putting what someone said. And I'll let her clarify, but that's how I see that. Yes.
As fake.
Yes. It
Yeah.
lacks sincerity. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Do we want to do take two? Oh, okay. Juanita came back. Not very sincere because I am different. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I don't know if we can do another one because we're at the hour
Oh,
mark.
we're at the hour? Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. Oh my gosh. That went fast. Well, I encourage everyone, we do have an online membership community, and we're going to be sending out the information about joining that, where we can have these kinds of conversations again inside of a closed container, for us to be able to talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Juanita, what is clear in this time is that women who carry the most privilege bear the most responsibility to change and shift our behavior so that repair, sisterhood, and solidarity can become possible. So, some tips for white women: how to show up. Number one, practice self care. Meaning, when you are hangry, when you are tired, when you're short on time, that's when your biases are most likely to be erupted. So plan out your day and give yourself adequate time. Make sure you eat lunch. Make sure you get enough rest. Drink lots of water. Okay. This will all help you to function better. When you're interacting, slow down, be present, and mind your energy. As we've spoken about in the past classes, we think of racism as, oh, I'm not using a racial slur, therefore I'm good. But so much of racism is conveyed through body language and energy, facial expressions. We got to mind all of it. Okay. It's not just using a bad word. Okay. Be humble, be grateful, and in integrity. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Understand the history and the context. That's why we spent so much time on Monday and Tuesday really going into these history pieces, even yesterday. So go back and watch the 1, 2, and 3. You'll get a lot of tips about the context and the history. Don't make assumptions. Ask open-ended questions. Like when I said, "Oh, how do you feel about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl?" Why would I say that to her? First of all, she doesn't know. Maybe I'm like a MAGA and I'm like so incensed that Bad Bunny is gonna, and we know each other in the office. I could be running around saying, "Oh my God, Vilma likes Bad Bunny." I mean, why would I say something like that? Don't make assumptions. Don't interrogate. Did you see I kept asking her questions over and over again? Don't express surprise. "Oh, Vilma, you're a lawyer?" Do not do that. Okay? About anything. Okay? Whatever it is the woman of color tells you, believe them. Do not question them. They are speaking their truth to you. Just take it at face value. Don't interrogate. Don't express surprise. Convey respect with your eye contact, choice of words, and tone. Okay? Do not come with this high he voice. No. Don't be an infant, white women. Be a woman. Don't seek ally cookies. Don't seek affirmation that I'm not racist, I'm a good white woman, all of those things. Just be a woman. Listen more, talk less. If I had to distill it all down to one thing, listen more, talk less. Allow for there to be pauses. You don't have to fill every moment of the day with verbiage. Just be quiet and listen. True relationships will emerge when white people demonstrate over time we can be trusted and that we are taking consistent anti-racist action. Okay? Um, uh, oh, Colette says often white people are over casual with one another, not realizing that other ethnicities are more formal and conservative. 100%. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
Colette.
and I think that's in particular too sometimes between generations as well, right? There in some generations and some cultures, an older person, you even if they said call me by my first name, they would say Miss Vilma or
Yes.
Miss Karen. So, and sometimes that's lost on other folks who are not of that culture. You know, there is a difference in how you are casual with people.
100%. My mentor Karen is who got me to put Esquire next to my name. Like I never put Esquire next to my she's like, "You earned that. You put that next to your name." And I'm like, "Okay." Interracial Sisterhood Retreat, November 6th through 10 in Barbados. Join us. We would love for you to be there. And tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, join us for the fifth and final day of building interracial sisterhood. This is where we tie it all together and really envision what it is that we want for ourselves and for future generations. And pardon?
I just want to say I can't make it tomorrow, but I am part of your community and your network. And I really am interested in continuing in helping form an interracial sisterhood coalition.
Thank you so much, Vilma. Thank you, Colette. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, everyone who tuned in today. We're so grateful for your participation, and we will follow up with you all. Please join us tomorrow if you can. It's going to be amazing. And I appreciate also your feedback, and these videos will live so you can share them with other people who you think would benefit from these things. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.